Hello and welcome back to Lorenzo's A Mission a Day. It's been a week without a mission a day, and from here on we're going to, do a mission a day again. Today we are launching a nuclear engine to the Val Interplanetary Exploration Vehicle, which is currently serving as a space station around Kerbin. Now you may recall, this happened a few weeks ago by now, that the previous engine we launched was a rather big affair, a much bigger rocket, much more expensive than this, but that also carried a Kerbal. They also carried a Kerbal and a re-entry vehicle. This does not. This is an unmanned vehicle rendezvous ship. It costs 80,000 credits, and with your views and subscriptions of the last few days, I am at 168,000 credits. So if all goes well, we can launch 2 of these and finish the engine cluster of the station. It gets better. The central core here has parachutes, as does this maneuvering ship. So if all goes well, we will be able to recover those and sell them on the ground for money. So here we go with the launch, going straight up first, and as you are well used to, if nothing goes wrong, everything goes right, then we will see each other in orbit. Well, we are safe and sound in orbit, and something unprecedented has happened. Yeah, I can say this is unprecedented. We have fuel left in the stage that wasn't meant to go in orbit. So what we are going to do is we are actually going to slow down, put this stage on a suborbital re-entering trajectory again, separate it, cross our fingers we are not going to regret sending all this fuel back to the planet, and then we are going to take just this core onwards to the station. I hope it is the right call. It would be very embarrassing now to end up stranded in space, but we need the money. We want to sell these engines back on the ground. So here we are, reducing our trajectory to, well, I'm going to put it at 18 kilometers. That would definitely make it re-enter in one go. And now I'm going to turn around so that we can safely thrust away from the spent stage. We're now at 300 kilometers. The space station orbits at some 250, and with our periapsis at 20 kilometers now. That should give us some playing room, some leeway in orbital altitudes to make our rendezvous. But first we are separating the booster stage, which will then hopefully parachute to safety for us to be recovered and turned into money. So here we go. Or should I vent the fuel first? The fuel will make it heavier. Hopefully that will still be allowed to be landed by the parachutes. I'm not going to vent the fuel, that would be silly. I can't do that. So here we go. Booster stage is now on a re-entry trajectory, and that means that this stage with its tiny engine now gets to boost back up into orbit. So let's put that at 70 kilometers at least, just to be safe, and then we can work on the rendezvous. I'll work on the rendezvous and I'll see you near the space station. Here we are coming in for the docking. I've lined everything up. We're going to slip past that other nuclear engine right into the docking port. I've aligned the RCS blocks here to be able to translate around the center of mass. The vector is right on cue and the speed is at 0.5 meters per second, which is what the docking ports are rated for. So this should be going all right. This is quite hairy to get past this engine to the docking port, and of course the next mission will be even more dreadful. I'm going to gently slow down a little bit so that we can make the connection at just 0.1 meters per second. This is precision docking, we don't want any nuclear explosions. And here we are, docked, no wobbling, no nothing. All good, quite proud of that. It took me a while to set up, but here we are. Now all that remains to do is to drain as much of the fuel. No, the fuel here is on board. We can drain all the monopropellant fuel, the RCS fuel, into the station, no problem. You're probably noticing, just as I am, that the frame rate isn't great around the engines, around the space station here. There's nothing I can do about that, short from, well, buying a new, better computer. And there is nothing I'm going to do about that. I'm just going to minimize footage of the space station, because that could be annoying. But I'm just going to have to tough it out, and I hope it will get better once we leave Kerbal, which is quite intensive on the processing as well. No, out. So we are going to transfer the monopropellant, and then we are going to attempt, my trick is to recover the probe core, the solar panels, the batteries, the RCS blocks, quite costly parts, and we could get a little bit of money back for that, and which of course is always nice. Let's see, is the ship full of monopropellant, or do we have another RCS canister somewhere? Yes, that's not quite full yet. It's almost full though. It's hard to select the proper parts when they're on far sides of a large ship like this. Now I've got another one there. I'm going to try this one more time, and otherwise I'm just going to take that fuel back down. Ah, here we go. Now we can fill this up, and all that we need to do now is to decouple from the nuclear engine. Decouple. And I made it so that the decoupler stays on this bit, and it did. So we're going to switch to that. And all that needs to happen now is to just make it re-enter, which should be simple enough. Ooh, it's nimble now that there is no nuclear engine attached to it. Wow. First order of the day is of course to get away from the station, so that we don't inadvertently hit that. And we can get some frame rate back once we're at more than 2.5 kilometers away from it. Great, great, great. Now I did bring a heat shield, just to protect this hardware. This is a little bit of a proof of concept. I could have left this with a docking port at the station to serve as a RCS powered tug to move around modules, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to crash it back to the planet for monies, because we are now at 91,000. This mission costed 80,000. Now, with the revisions in ship design, I don't need as much fuel. It will be a little bit cheaper, but again, we will be needing every penny, because after we attach the second engine, we're not done yet. We need a power core. We need an ion-powered probe. We need many more things, and then when that's all sorted, then the vessel will set off for Minmus, where it will be refueled using our Kethane miner, and then it can set off to Vol. Before that happens, though, I might send the lander, the Vol lander that well, didn't make it last time. I might send that with one of the Kerbals in it to establish a manned presence on Vol. It's incidentally also one of the missions Jay Cheetah made for me, is to put one person on Vol, and this is something I can just do. Burning out the engine here to cushion that re-entry as much as possible, or at least reduce the speed, and we're, well, basically going to fall straight down almost, which is not so good for the G-forces, but it's great for the heat, and as we have no people in this probe, we care less about G-forces than we do about heat. So here we are falling to the planet in a nicely time accelerated fashion, and hitting the atmosphere now. And of course, before we go into the thick parts, I would like to orient the heat shield to face that re-entry heat. So, as I said, we're falling almost straight down, and now, hey, I've two decouplers here. Well, I'm not going to decouple the heat shield, that's fair enough. And we are just about to slam into that 20-kilometer atmosphere, where it gets really hot really quickly. So we'll see if the heat shield is able to hold. First, I think the decoupler will burn off, and ooh, some things are burning. Some things are definitely burning. What do we have here? We have the heat shield. It's rapidly ablating, but we are also rapidly slowing down. So hopefully, oh yes, it just precisely made it. Deploying the parachutes now, and they slowed us down at, well, a high amount of G's, as the rattling told me. But we are now coming in for a landing gently on these parachutes. Let's have a look at what burned off, because some things burned off. Oh, the stuff on the side burned off. The stack decouplers, well, that was expected. The solar panels and the RCS blocks, well, those are casualties of re-entry. Wow, that's actually quite realistic. We have the heat shield here, and everything that was sticking out. Oh, this one solar panel made it. Everything that was sticking out burned off. I'm happy the parachutes didn't burn off. Maybe they were shielded by the solar panels or the RCS blocks. I don't know, but they survived, which is nice, because now this is going to fall down. The heat shield is just about exactly spent, and we can sell the reaction wheel, sell the batteries, sell one solar panel, the fuel tank, and of course the command pod. So going to time accelerate until we hit the ground, and then do that. They can come and pick it up from the desert and possibly reuse it, study it, or whatever they want to do with that. So that's fine. Lowering the time acceleration. The maximum G's was actually 12.6, so that should still be fine. I say hardware should be able to withstand those levels of G-force. Here we are, landed, and the SAS on this reaction wheel is keeping it steady. Let's see if we can. Wow. Can we balance it on its side? Is that reaction wheel strong enough? Yes, it is. Look at that. That's great. Not quite realistic, but there's a massive gyroscope in there that's just keeping this at a incline. They should do this to the Tower of Pisa. Anyway, I'm going to recover this vessel, which should give us money, and maybe 1 or 2 science points even. Go on, we got 0 science points. Well, we've been here before, and we got 4,000 credits. That's less, not a huge amount, but it's less than the cost of a heat shield, so we could do that. Great, got some money. Speaking of science, I'm now at 96,000 credits. What I just saw is that in the research tab of the mission controller, we are capable of buying construction 1 for some science points, 120 science points. I'm going to do this, and it should make the rockets cheaper. So let's do that and have a quick look what our engine lifter would cost. We're going to modify it, and then we're going to launch the second rocket. Don't worry, I'm not going to show you that all again, because, well, you just saw a textbook mission of rendezvous and docking, if I do say so myself, and you probably wouldn't need that again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete the lower tank, just put the engines here. That will probably be alright with the offset boosters, at least I hope it will be. The boosters are now a fair bit lower than the fuel tanks, but I'm not too worried about that. We have increased our thrust to weight ratio, and we have only lost a little bit of delta V. It should all be fine. Right, so what does this cost? Now it only costs 66,000. Of course we did ditch one fuel tank, but that's probably not worth 14,000 credits. So oh, I'm forgetting the launch stabilizers as well. Of course, they add to the cost quite substantially as also. So what does it cost now? 70,000. So it's 10,000 cheaper, even though we put one tank less. So it's not a huge difference. It's not a huge difference, but every little penny counts. And let us go to the launch pad again. Here we are on the launch pad. The rocket is fairly wobbly, but I hope as soon as we launch that will be fixed. So here we go. Pro rocket science at work again. The rocket is wobbling, but launching should fix it. Yes, and there we go. A few extra struts wouldn't have been amiss for these boosters here, and ooh, we're accelerating rather quickly now without the extra ballast of that fuel tank. Hopefully I manage to keep everything stable, and if I do, you will see me at the space station where I will attach the last engine. Here we are, coming in to dock the final engine module. I had a small collision with the nuclear engines that are already attached, but that was only a small collision, more like a gentle bump than any real sort of collision, which is, I suppose, what you get when you're doing all your maneuvers at less than half a meter per second. And we are now coming in slightly from below to avoid these engines, pointing at the docking ports and proceeding very slowly. Hopefully that will sort of snap into place without a massive explosion. Going to slow down. Ooh, go on. Hit that docking port. As you might be able to see, it's not as perfect as the last one. And try and jam it in there. Probably not something you want your rocket engineers to be saying, that they are going to just jam that nuclear engine in there, but it does seem as though that is going to be working. I'm going to press on it a little bit with the RCS. It's not docked yet, but I can't really see why not, as it's just on there. Go on. Set that as a target. Maybe I have to rotate it a bit. Ah, here we go. This looks like it can slot in a bit. Let's see. Rotate. Ah, there we go. Rotated it into place. Probably there was some kind of RCS port or something that was blocking that docking. So this is starting to look like a spaceship. We have 3 nuclear engines on the back, a big cluster of fuel tanks in the middle with docking ports for docking, and a habitation module and a excursion module. Kerbals can go in here and explore the system, and you might notice that this is built with a rather outdated technology. This was launched many days ago when we weren't as far on the tech tree as we are now, and the same goes for this lander. As we move to this engine core, we get progressively more advanced stuff, namely docking ports and indeed the nuclear engines. Here on the other side of the space station, we're going to attach a small module that will just be high-tech gadgetry basically. So that should be some solar panels, some large solar panels, some inline batteries, and some of that good stuff, and of course a small ion-powered probe. And with that launch then completed, we can send this thing off to Minmus, where it will be refueled and prepped for its trip to Val. Let's see, we have one guy in it. We have Bill Kerman here in the pod, and we might also have to send up one more guy so that they can keep each other company. So for now, I'm just going to have this baby re-enter again, same as we did with the first rocket. Decouple that, and what I didn't do is fill up the... I hope I left some fuel in it so that it actually can decouple. Well, it can decouple for sure, but it can re-enter, and that it probably can. So I'm not going to show you this re-entry again. You saw it just a few minutes ago, so just trust that it will happen the same way. We get some money back, so tomorrow we will start the day with a little bit over 30,000 credits. Hopefully all of you will be watching. All of you will be watching and subscribing, which will also give me money for subsequent launches. So if you didn't know that yet, 1 view gives me 100 credits and 1 subscription gives me 1,000 credits. So if all of you like and subscribe, of course only do so if you enjoyed the video. If not, please let me know why you didn't, and I will take that into consideration for subsequent videos. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is thank you for watching. I'll be seeing you tomorrow, where we will either send a man to Val, incurring a monetary loss, or fiddle around with the space station some more, hopefully not being bankrupt. We might have to launch some satellites, but if we look at this frame rate, that might not be that smart of an idea. Well, the space station has been unloaded, we get some more frames, great. So once more, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and see you tomorrow.